So in the paper the other day, or this weekend, there was a very interesting article about Moroccan migrants in the Netherlands who were pretty much just set up to fail from every angle. Now, I don't want to specifically talk about that article because that's an example. I want to talk about the greater issue of migration, and especially Islamic migration, and how we deal with it. Now, in the Netherlands and other European countries, there is a debate ongoing. And the debate kind of follows this narrative. Because there are extremist Muslims that are committing terrorist attacks on Western soil, the argument goes that the culture of Islam is somehow intrinsically incompatible with the Western values, and therefore we should get rid of all Muslims from our countries and everyone from those countries in our country because they're bad, they commit terrorist attacks, and ooh, they're spooky. I want to talk about that because even if we say that Islam is inherently violent or something, the right doesn't have a workable solution to solve this problem. Because what is the problem? Well, the problem is that the people in our countries have animosity towards the West, and because of that animosity, they are motivated to commit acts of terror. That's the argument. But if that is true, that is, and it is true to a certain degree. Obviously, the vast majority of Muslims, I don't know how many Muslims there are in the world, it's like 1 billion, probably even more than that. I believe 1.2 billion? Not sure. Doesn't really matter. But for the millions and millions of people in the Western world that is Muslim, we don't really see that many terrorist attacks. They happen, and they happen with a concerning frequency, but not to the amount where I would say that all Muslims are a threat to national security. Not in the slightest. But what do we do to solve this problem? Well, the right has a solution, they say. They say because they're incompatible with the West, which would be exemplified by the fact that they're anti-gay marriage, they're anti the emancipation of women, they are, what else are they? There's the main two. But you know who else has those two things? That you don't hear them talking about how they're incompatible. Christians, fundamental Christians, also don't support gay marriage and also are not for the emancipation of women. But somehow they are compatible with our... If you define Western values to include a libertarian stance towards gay marriage and that everything should just be legal in that regard, then fundamentalist Christians definitely impede on those freedoms, and they definitely at that point shouldn't be compatible with the Western world. Yet no one talks about them. And even if you look at terrorism, if terrorism is your one thing, like, oh, this makes people not compatible. We have seen in the Western world as a whole, not just in Europe, but if you look at the Western world as a whole, more terrorism from extremist right-wing people, from white supremacists and the like. No one makes the argument that because there are a few white supremacists who shoot up mosques, that we just need to get rid of all right-wingers. No one says that, oh, yeah, all right-wingers, just kick them out of the country. Why wouldn't you? No one makes that argument, although it would be intellectually consistent if your argument is they commit terrorist attacks, or a small minority commits terrorist attacks, therefore the whole amount of people need to leave. It's the same with eco-fascism. If an eco-fascist commits a terror attack, no one calls for all vegans to be kicked out of the country. But let's even say that we are going to kick them out of the country. We don't want them in the country. We're going to shoo them from our country. Kick them out. How would we do this? Like, logistically. And I'm going to take a very Dutch-centric position here. I'm going to look at this issue from the point of view of the Netherlands. For one, the question arises: what makes someone dangerous? Are we going to kick out anyone who is like signed up with a mosque on like a register sheet? I don't even know if that sort of thing exists. If it does, which it probably does, if we look at historical, not even that far historical precedent, every single time that a society or a government has tried to push out a religion, it has failed. You can't suppress a religion by making it illegal. It doesn't work. We've seen this time and time again. We see them with Christians in certain countries. They don't just leave. They keep their faith and just do it secret. That's what happens. So we can't just do that. I mean, it'll be a start, but it won't be a complete solution. So what do? We just kick out everyone who has heritage in the Middle East or in Northern Africa? Well, we could do that. But, and the first generation migrants, that's easy. They came in from Syria, push them out. But what about second generation? What about second generation that's only half Iranian? Like they have an Iranian father and a Dutch mother. What do we do that with them? Do we kick them out? What do we do with the Dutch woman? Just rip the families apart? Because you want to build an ethno-state so bad? Could do that. I wouldn't advise for it. What do we do with 1/4 people that only have an Iranian grandfather? What do we do with 1/8, 1/16? You can see the problem. You need to draw an arbitrary line somewhere in the sand where you say, these people are allowed, these people aren't. What do you base that on? On the one drop philosophy? As long as you have one drop of blood that's not from European soil, you get exiled? And you could make these arguments, but you'd just be arguing for an ethno-state, which, call me a radical leftist, I don't support ethno-states. And even if we do this, even if we build an ethno-state, we kick all these people out, we put them in concentration camps, whatever we do. The Netherlands has open borders to Belgium and to Germany, and to any country from the European Union for that matter. You know who lives in Germany? Germans with an immigration history from the Middle East. And they might be Muslims. Also ignoring the fact that being Muslim is a faith, Islam is a faith. Even someone like me, I can draw my lineage back to the 1700s, where there were all farmers in this country. I could be Muslim. Let's not pretend that this is a solution to having Islam in your country. It's just, you're not going to get rid of it. It's just xenophobia and racism. But even if we, even if we want to be charitable, even if we want to forgo the quite obvious fact that it's just xenophobia wrapped with a little bow of being afraid of terrorism, even if we're going to go there, it's not a workable solution. Because you know what you're going to do when you're going to be talk more about how these people are the root of all evil and how they destroy the West. This is a genuine question to people who subscribe to this philosophy. Do you really think that is going to create less or more animosity towards the West? I don't care what reason you think it has, but in my opinion, and I might be wrong here, it's going to create more animosity, which would probably persuade more people to commit terrorist attacks in our country. And even if we kick them all out, even if we create an algorithm, an AI that with 100% accuracy can spot the Muslim, if we kick them all out, We have open borders. They could just hop over the German border with us and commit terrorist attacks. They could book a holiday. We actually have precedent of people booking holidays to European countries and then committing terrorist attacks. It's not something unheard of. They could easily do it. So what's your solution to that? Leave the EU and leave a bunch of our economical bases, because most of our economy is contingent on export and import, which we won't be able to do anymore. You know the harbour that we have in Rotterdam, the biggest harbour in Europe. I mean, I don't know what you're going to put there. Maybe like you can rent those rowing boats, because you're not going to get export. You know, all of the fucking transport that comes from other countries and that goes to Germany. You can forget about that. They'll just go through Belgium. Why would they go through our country when we have massive borders to keep all the brown people out? Which increases time between all those trucks, because you need to check all the trucks to see if no brown people are inside of it. Before they cross the borders, someone could have driven all the way from Belgium. They could have been there faster. Time is money. Costs more money to do it through us. It's just unfathomable how someone can think that just establishing an ethno-state could be a workable solution, because it's not. Unless you just ban all travel from all countries and, I don't know, we just live in our own very small economy, because most of our economy depends on export with Germany and other countries. I don't know how you see this happening. I'm willing to talk to you about how we solve these problems of radicalization and extremism, because they are real issues, but your solutions to them just don't work. They're just shit. And it seems to be a pattern with right-wingers, that they have a lot of solutions to problems that we can agree on, but where the solutions just don't work. They're not really that terrible in the face of it, but when you really delve into the logistics of them, they don't have the solution. They don't have the effect that is wanted or desired. And even if you follow them to the extremes, they don't actually achieve the goal that you would want them to achieve. Now, I'm sorry if the shot is a little bit different here. That's because my camera decided to cut out with no reason, without warning, so I had to redo this last shot. But that was pretty much everything I wanted to say. Thank you for watching this rant. If you want to see more of me in the future, consider subscribing. And apart from that, I guess I'll see you when I'm inspired to make another rant.